50 spine-chilling moments revealed. Terrifying encounters you must never face alone. Lisa stepped out onto the porch, the air thick with tension. Every shadow in Maplewood seemed to pulse with life, whispering secrets meant for ears far more attuned to darkness. She glanced down at the vintage lantern clutched in her hands. It belonged to her grandmother. A final flicker of warmth in a world that felt increasingly hostile. She hadn't imagined the move would come with the weight of such unease, but the tranquility she craved felt more like a facade. As dusk set in, that's when the unsettling stillness began to cling to her like a heavy blanket. "Are those kids ever quiet?" she muttered to herself as she listened to the sound of laughter from beyond her yard. But even the laughter felt hollow, echoing in the spaces between the trees. Somewhere in the dim light, she felt something watching her, a presence that had no business being there. Down the street, whispers about the watcher circulated, spinning a tale that tugged at Lisa's skepticism. Neighbors' friendly faces with wide smiles pieced together the folklore of a figure lurking just out of sight. Lisa shook her head in disbelief, brushing off the stories as mere overactive imaginations. But when Emily and Jake brought home pictures filled with dark, looming shapes, her heart sank. She didn't want to believe, yet fear crept in like if it wasn't just the kids' drawings. It was how the other parents looked at her, too eager, too friendly, their eyes glinting like knives under the streetlights. Those smiles began to feel predatory, and Lisa's pulse quickened. Each conversation felt like a tightrope walk above a chasm of secrets. On a night shift at the convenience store, Brad, her coworker, paced behind the register. "Something's off here, Lisa. I swear I see things moving at the edges of the woods," he said, his voice trembling slightly. She could sense a collective anxiety growing around them, thick enough to slice through. Just as he leaned forward, eyes wide, his expression morphed into pure dread as he vanished without a trace. Panic seized her. "Brad!" she yelled, but only silence answered back. Returning home, the shadows seemed to dance, mocking her hesitation. "Just the trees," she whispered to herself. But at her front door the air shifted, tightening around her throat. She felt it, the creeping presence, a sense of something lurking, waiting. Whispers curled at the corners of her mind. Children's laughter had twisted into cries that sent ice splintering down her spine. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." With clenched fists around the lantern, she leaned into her fear, determined to uncover the reality behind the stories. One evening she confronted a neighbor, a woman whose grin never seemed to fade. Just as she was about to speak, that smile morphed, darkening, revealing too much. Lisa turned to run, and as she did, the lantern flickered violently, casting an erratic glow that illuminated a figure lingering in the shadows at the end of her yard. Hollow eyes boring into her, they promised a truth too frightening to comprehend. The cold gnawing at her was more than the night's chill. It was a premonition. A mother's instinct kicked in. She needed to protect her children. Were these friendly faces truly neighbors? Or were they the embodiment of something far darker? The lantern's light sputtered, casting tremors of doubt through her. And for Lisa, the suffocating darkness seemed to narrow, closing in as she wondered if safety could ever feel real again. The wind whispered through the trees, a mournful tune that seemed to beckon Lisa back toward the shadows. Her heart raced, veins pulsing with adrenaline. She gripped the lantern tighter. Its flickering light felt feeble against the encroaching dark. That figure with eyes like empty wells stood still, watching her. "Who are you?" she choked out, the question barely escaping her lips. The moment hung heavy, suffocating. Silence fell, thick and oppressive. The shadows seemed to conspire, swallowing her words whole. Then, disturbingly, the figure stepped forward. Its outline bent and twisted, as if the dark itself was alive, imitating some grotesque parody of humanity. Staring into those abyssal eyes, terror slithered up her spine. Lisa stumbled backward, her pulse hammering loud enough to drown out rational thought. She turned and ran toward the house, the sound of her frantic footsteps crackling beneath the dry leaves, a desperate heartbeat in the cacophony of night. As she burst through the door, she slammed it shut, leaning against the frame as if hoping to block out the horror stalking her. But the safety of her home felt thin like glass. The lantern's glow flickered again as if sensing her distress. Each creak of the old wooden floorboards echoed loudly, a haunting reminder of her isolation. "Emily! Jake!" she called, panic threading through her voice. They should have been home by now. A part of her was certain they would come back untainted by whatever horror resided outside. But her heart sank. She could feel it, a gnawing intuition that they were in danger too. In a moment of quiet, she thought about the drawings. Those children's sketches were more than innocent art. They were warnings. Perhaps they saw what she could not. She stumbled to the dining room, clearing the cluttered table to find Emily's stack of papers. Each one seemed to come alive in her mind's eye. Shapes lurking, clawed fingers reaching, shadows whispering secrets in the distance. She needed to know. As fear gripped her, she steeled herself, flipping through the sketches. But the images ignited her dread, each one tinged with darkness. She slammed the sketches down, feeling claustrophobic as if the very walls of the house were closing in. Then, a soft thud from upstairs made her freeze. The children? No, it couldn't be. She strained to listen, her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't just footsteps, it sounded like whispers, too low to comprehend yet unmistakably familiar. "Emily, Jake," she whisper-shouted, panic brimming over her chest. The sounds grew louder, shuffling closer, accompanied by giggles that morphed into a chilling cacophony of laughter, a sound that twisted into something sinister. Just then, the lantern dimmed. Darkness pooled around her, a suffocating blanket. She could feel the air grow heavier, pressing down, squeezing the life from her. And then she saw it, the shape at the top of the stairs. "Mommy," a voice called, but something felt wrong. The voice was too sweet, too innocent. It was a lure, a bait cast into the depths of her fear. Shadows behind the voice loomed larger, twisting in unnatural forms, surrounding her children in the blurred recesses of her mind. Fighting her instincts, she stumbled toward the staircase, every step feeling like a descent into hell. "Stay where you are," she yelled, but even to her own ears, her voice sounded small and lost in the dark. As Lisa reached the bottom of the staircase, the light flickered and sizzled, leaving her in complete darkness. The whispers amplified, swirling around her, pulling her deeper into despair. She felt frantic fingers grasp at her heart, tightening with every passing moment. "Mommy," came the voice again, this time just a heartbeat away. What awaited her at the top? A child? A monster? The air quivered with anticipation, and she held her breath. She stepped forward into the darkness, and that when she heard it. A terrible echoing laughter thick with malice. And in that sinister moment, Lisa realized the dark was alive. What had she unwittingly invited into her family's home? The nightmare was only just beginning. "Mommy," the voice was closer now, weaving through the dark like a spider's silk. Each syllable dripped with a sweetness that made her stomach churn. Lisa's heart raced, pounding violently against her ribcage. She could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching her from the shadows, heavy and oppressive. The laughter echoed again, a chilling chorus that rose and fell. As if reveling in her fear, with trembling hands, she reached for the lantern, praying it would ignite, praying for warmth and light. And just as the whispers intensified, the flame flickered back to life. The pale glow pushed back the shadows, exposing the creeping dread lurking at the edge of her vision. But the light did little to quell the storm brewing in her chest. "Stay away," she shouted, her voice cracking like dried leaves underfoot. Lisa felt the familiar tug of maternal instinct, urging her to climb the stairs to reach her children, but a thick fog of doubt clouded her mind. That voice, it was wrong. It was all wrong. "Mommy, please." The plea came again, and this time it was layered with desperation that pierced through the murkiness of her fear. She took a step toward the staircase, her feet moving as if stuck in molasses. The dark responded, pressing in tighter, begging her to turn back. And yet, what if it was really Emily and Jake? What if they were hurt? The internal struggle twisted her thoughts into knots. She peered into the darkness above, searching for her kids, for any clues that would guide her home. With a shuddering breath, she clenched the lantern tighter and took the first step. It creaked beneath her weight, sounding like a warning bell tolling in the night. Then a shuffle from upstairs, louder, closer. The whispers morphed, merging into chants of her name. layered with mocking undertones that licked at her nerves. "Mommy, we're scared." Lisa, the voice was innocent, pitch perfect, but it left a bitter taste in her mouth. Another step and she felt the air grow even colder. Ghostly fingers brushed against her skin, leaving a trail of ice. She paused, fighting the urge to retreat. What if the thing above wasn't her children? The uncertainty gnawed at her heart. Suddenly, an ear-splitting crash came from the direction of the children's room. Lisa gasped, the sound shocking her back to life. Fear propelled her forward. She couldn't stand by and wait. She dashed up the staircase, each step feeling like a descent deeper into the nightmare. The chants grew louder, reverberating through her, shaking her resolve. "Mommy," they called again. A sweet mockery that made her skin prickle. Bursting into the hallway upstairs, she swung the lantern wildly, illuminating the door to their shared room. The door was ajar, and a shadow flickered within like a flame jumping in the wind. She dashed forward, feeling the lantern's warmth siphoned away by the frigid air closing in around her. "Emily! Jake!" Her voice broke as she pushed the door wide, heart hammering like a drum against her chest. But inside, the room was empty. Toys lay scattered, their innocuous colors dulled in the dim light. The bed was a shadowy void, and the window flapped like a bird's wings against the wind. In the silence that followed, fear clutched at Lisa's throat like steel. "Where are you?" she whispered, panic rippling through her body. And just then, the laughter erupted again, this time from her left, echoing down the hall. She turned, heart racing. It was a sound that crawled beneath her skin and twisted her insides. The shadows coiled around her, confounding her senses, urging her to follow. "Mommy, come play," said that sweet voice, an alluring seduction laced with darkness. Without thinking, she stepped into the hall, terrified yet compelled. But what lurked at the end of that laughter? Couldn't be her children? Not now. She was running out of time. And choices. As she drew closer to the laughter, she felt the shadows close in, thickening like fog, fastening their grip on her. The walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting in anticipation. And then a cold realization washed over her. In a matter of moments, she would learn the truth of the darkness that dwelled around her. What had she awakened? Pressing forward into the unknown, the shadows began to whisper her name, and she braced herself for what awaited her at the end of the hallway. The laughter echoed, a serrated sound cutting through the stillness like a blade. Lisa's breath hitching in her throat, she pressed on, the lantern flickering despite her tight grip. Shadows danced, stretching and pulling at her, as if trying to hold her back. With each step, the laughter grew sharper, like shards of glass being driven into her mind. She felt the floor beneath her pulse, a rhythmic heartbeat echoing her own rising panic. "Emily? Jake?" Each frantic call slipping out like desperate prayers as she crossed the threshold into the dimly lit hall. Cold tendrils snaked around her ankles, tightening like the grip of an unseen hand. The laughter morphed into hushed whispers, teasing her with unknown secrets. "Mommy, join us," they coaxed, the echoes weaving through the dark, wrapping around her heart with icy fingers. Lisa strained to keep her focus, directing the lantern towards the source of the sound. It flickered uncertainly, casting long twisted shadows that danced menacingly along the walls. It felt like the house itself had a pulse, alive and hungry. Suddenly the atmosphere shifted. It thickened and she felt breathless, as if the very air around her conspired to stifle her. "What do you want?" She cried out into the emptiness, tears pooling in her eyes as the fear became a physical weight on her chest. There it was again, that heart-stopping crash from the children's room, followed by another round of that sickening laughter. "Come play, Mommy," and then with a sudden burst, the door to the children's room swung open with an impossible force. The lantern flickered wildly, turning the shadows into monstrous forms, for a split second elongating into grotesque shapes. Lisa stumbled back, fear coursing through her veins like ice water. This wasn't right. She realized then she had to act decisively. In that exact moment, she noticed something glinting faintly in the dark. It was the reflection of a small torn piece of fabric near the door, the remnants of Jake's favorite shirt. Panic surged as she reached down to grasp it. It was cold, almost as if it had just been dropped recently. "Mommy, hurry," the voice called out again, more insistent, an urgent tug on her sanity. But now it didn't feel innocuous, there was an edge to it, a warning that twisted her stomach. Everything clicked into place like the gears of a clock. Lisa turned towards the open door, heart hammering. The frame was suffused with dark energy, and she could see it distorting, shifting as if it were alive. "I'm coming," she shouted, though even her own words felt hollow, deceptive in the mouth of terror. With a bounding leap, she charged through the threshold. The air shifted violently, slamming the door behind her with a force that rattled the very bones in her body. She was met with a scene she didn't expect. The room was untouched by darkness, bathed in an eerie pale glow. And there in the center stood her children. But they looked different. Their faces were peaceful yet void, as if the essence of who they were had been drained away. They stared straight ahead, eyes unblinking and soundless, completely unresponsive to her frantic calls. "Get away from them!" A harsh voice boomed from the corner of the room. It was a figure cloaked in shadows, only partially visible. The air chilled further and every instinct screamed for her to run. But Lisa's feet felt cemented in place. "Mommy," the children said again, voices hollow. "Are you scared?" The figure emerged fully, lips curling into a smile that twisted her stomach. The laughter returned. "Come join us," it beckoned, each word dripping with hunger. Lisa's mind raced. She needed to think fast. The lantern flickered ominously, the light dimming. The shadows swarmed closer, eager to wrap around her, suffocating her with their presence. Then she saw it. In the corner, an old mirror, cracked and dusty. The surface shimmered with a strange light, and as her gaze fell upon it, her pulse quickened. In its reflection, she saw more than just the room. She saw a flicker of movement beside her children. Dark, writhing shapes flitted about, merging with their stillness. Was this a way out? Or just another trap? Lisa took a trembling step towards the mirror, her fingers yearning to reach out and shatter the glass. But the figure in the corner let out a laugh. It was a sound filled with both joy and malice. "You cannot touch what you cannot see." With that, as the shadows closed in, she braced for impact. Would she save her children, or would this end in darkness? And as she felt the constricting grip of the dark envelop her, a single thought flashed through her mind. What awaited her beyond the glass? The darkness was alive. It twisted and coiled around Lisa, with every breath coming harder, the air thickening like molasses. She stumbled backward, instinctively shielding her eyes from the unnerving shadows that crept ever closer. The laughter surged again, an unholy chorus that dug into her mind, dragging her deeper into despair. "Mommy," the children said once more, their voices echoing with eerie synchronization. The sound clawed at her heart. Their unmoving forms remained rooted, oblivious to the horror winding itself around her. No, I'm here," Lisa shouted, desperation tinged with the futility of it all. She felt like a wisp of smoke, swirling in a tempest without a chance of escape. Her feet rooted to the floor, she could only watch as the mirror shimmered, its surface beckoning her closer. Closer. A sudden, jarring crash erupted from the distance, breaking the spell. The figure in the corner moved, finally revealing itself, a monstrous silhouette cloaked in shadows. Its face was obscured, but the laughter turned into something worse, a guttural growl. "Leave them be," it hissed. The words slithered into her ears, laced with poison. Lisa's heart raced. Each thud echoing through the room felt like thunder rolling in from a nightmare. The reflection in the mirror changed, flickering, until she saw not her children but ghastly images blurring with violence. Another mother, lost and despairing. Her resolve sharpened amidst the chaos. She turned to the mirror, eyes wide, searching for a glimmer of hope. The reflection of her children remained, eyes blank, skin pallid. But there, just a flicker in the background, she could barely make it out, a dark figure, like the one before her, looming, watching. "Mommy, don't leave us." A sharp pain pierced through the fog in her mind. The children's voices melded with a chorus of cries, every syllable striking a nerve, resonating through her bones. The shadows writhed, moving like a storm on the horizon, desperately clawing at her sanity. "Stop it," she yelled, her voice cracking, wrestling with the overwhelming dread. "Stop. You don't own them." The figure lunged forward, darkness spilling from its limbs, wrapping its many tendrils around Lisa. The grip was unbearably cold, almost liquid, gliding over her skin like a creeping chill. It pulled her toward the darkened corner where the voice echoed, each whisper tugging at her strength. The mirror. Her heart raced. If it held the entrance to another domain, could it also be an exit? Before she could second-guess herself, she surged toward it, breaking free from the icy tendrils just long enough to clasp the lantern in hand and swing it wildly. The light burst forth like an explosion, illuminating the room in brilliant white. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as the laughter distorted into a discordant howl. The mirror twinkled, sparks flying even as the darkness attempted to swallow her. "Come back," they wailed, the children's voices melding with the grotesque figure. "Join us, Mommy." The figure lunged again, but the light held it back. Her heart thundered, and she screamed before thrusting the lantern toward the mirror. The explosion of light intensified. Everything shattered. Glass splintered in an array of stars, light spilling out into a blinding abyss. For a fleeting moment, Lisa felt weightless, as if every piece of terror surrounding her had been obliterated. But then something tugged at her, pulling her deeper into that swirling mass of light and shadow. Just as the shimmering intensity threatened to engulf her entirely, a single thought collapsed within her mind. Would she emerge in a different reality, or was this just the beginning of something worse? The darkness retreated momentarily, but Lisa sensed a looming presence and echo, a promise of more terror waiting beyond the void. What had she unleashed in her desperate grasp for light? And then everything went black. Sound rushed back to Lisa, a deafening roar that echoed off the walls of an unreal chamber. Her heart was still racing, every muscle taut with tension. She had fallen, but not onto the ground. It felt more like she tumbled into a thick fog, its chill sinking into her skin. Breathing was heavy and labored, as if the air itself conspired to suffocate her. What lay around her, she couldn't tell. A swirling gray haze obscured everything. She blinked, straining to find shapes or a hint of light, but there was nothing. Only an expanse of nothingness enclosing her like a suffocating vice. "Mommy." The voice was faint, like a whisper carried from the depths. Panic flared. It sounded like her children, but it was distorted and hollow. Where were they? Were they trapped in this void with her? "Answer me," she shouted, forcing back the familiar dread rising in her throat. Silence followed, crushing her beneath its weight. She sighed, slumping against a formless shadow that felt solid for a moment before dissipating like smoke. Her hands trembled as she reached out, searching for something, anything to help ground her in this chaotic abyss. "Help us this time." The kids' voices carried a hint of urgency, slicing through the silence like a knife. They were near. She could feel it. "Hold on. I'm coming." Just as she steeled her resolve, the shimmering light from the previous realm sparked to life around her, illuminating a room, the one she had escaped. The shattered mirror glinted mischievously in the dull light, shards of glass glistening like tiny stars. She stepped forward, adrenaline surging. But the joy was short-lived. The atmosphere shifted, becoming thick with malevolence. From the darkened corners crept that same silhouette, twisted and horrifying. "Did you think you could leave?" It rasped, its voice like gravel dragged over rough stone. "You opened the door now, and it will never close. You are ours." Lisa felt the walls of fear close in again. The figure lunged, a vortex of shadows spiraling around it, crackling with dark energy. She turned on her heel, an instinctive scream bursting through her lips. The laughter returned, a cacophony that penetrated her mind. It swelled, growled, and howled, separate voices merging into one terrifying melody. Each note plucked at the strings of her sanity, making her feel like she was unraveling. "Stay away from my children," she shouted, determination fueling her. She still held the lantern, the beacon that had once pushed back the darkness. With a swift motion, she raised it high, the light flickering and sputtering. Focusing hard, she drew upon her fear, her love, and the need to protect her children. "Light, show me the way," she commanded, as if the lantern had a will of its own. The light flared to life, blinding in its intensity. The shadows shrieked, but the air still felt heavy. A wave of energy pulsed through her, fusing with the chaos surrounding them. Lisa pushed forward, knowing she needed to reach the heart of the darkness, to snuff out its grasp on her kids, but as she advanced, the figure transformed, shifting into an image from her past, herself cradling the tiny arms of her children. They looked up at her, innocent and smiling. "Mommy, help us." The scene twisted, becoming grotesque as shadows pulled at the children, their faces straining with terror. The eyes that once sparkled with life now screamed for salvation. "No," Lisa screamed, realizing too late that she'd walked right into the trap. The darkness closed in around her, tendrils snaking through the light, extinguishing it engulfed her completely. She gasped, breath catching in her throat, before everything went utterly still. In that silence she was left with a chilling thought. Had she traded her safety for her children's anguish? What had she truly unleashed in her desperate quest to save them? And at what cost? The darkness clung to Lisa like a shroud, wrapping tighter until she could scarcely breathe. Her pulse hammered in her ears, drowning out the remnants of laughter that echoed through the void. It was a dreadful reminder of the terrible laughter that had twisted and consumed her every step. She was unable to tell up from down. The very ground beneath her seemed unsteady, shifting, vanishing like smoke. "Mommy," the voice was clearer now, filled with anguish that clawed at her heart. Each syllable sliced through her, digging deeper with every passing moment. She stumbled forward, arms outstretched, desperate to break free from the oppressive void. Her fingers brushed against something cold and solid, a wall, a barrier, or perhaps even a grave. The instinct to recoil made her world spin, but the voice called again, softer now yet choked with fear. "Help us please." The plea roused a primal longing, a fierce resolve that settled like fire in her veins. Forgetting herself, Lisa shouted, "I'm coming. I swear." Hope flickered, a fragile flame in the dark, igniting something within her. She grasped the lantern, forcing ancient light to cut through the haze. With a deep breath, she called forth her determination. "Light! Let me!" The word stirred the entity in the shadows, pulling it forth, weaving its darkness into an inescapable cocoon. The looming figure materialized, grotesque and wretched, reshaping itself into a parody of her own sorrow. It towered over her, drawing energy from her fear. "You can't save them," it crooned, lacing every syllable with mockery. "You opened the door, now it's too late. Shut up," she screamed, lunging forward, determined to break free from the nightmare. But the shadows leaped higher, flaring ominously as if to smother her will. With a swift, defiant swipe, she swung the lantern, light spilling outward. The darkness writhed and hissed, flinching as the brilliance stung its intangible flesh. "Not today," she yelled, reckless, fired up by newfound hope. The light climbed higher, tackling the murky shadows, but each effort to clear the air only seemed to intensify their growls and screams. A surge of panic burst to life. If she couldn't free them, she'd drown alongside her children in an ocean of despair. They had to be close. The void pulsed with a terrible hunger, and Lisa could feel the ground beneath shift. "Mommy!" A cry. A word. An echo. "No!" The wretched sneer of the shadowy figure grew, consuming the sound of her name. It lunged in a flurry of black tendrils, striking Lisa and sending her careening backward. She slammed against an unseen wall, breath expelling violently from her lungs. Choking back fear, she scrambled back to her feet. Her chest tightened as she remembered the last glimmer of her children. "I want to stop," she shouted, rage fueling her resolve. But the entity advanced, growing larger as it reached towards her, with clawed fingers stretching infinitely, twisting into her memories, feeding off her pain. Each motion dragged her deeper into despair. Whispers filled her mind, recurring taunts. "You cannot save what's lost." Images of her children swarmed her thoughts, laughter and light. She clung to those memories fiercely, peeling away the sorrow enshrouding her heart. "I'll find you. I promise." A sudden rip in the fabric of the abyss caught her eye, a flicker of movement just beyond the black. The hope surged again. Could it be an escape? She needed to know. Gathering all her strength, Lisa shoved forward, lunging into that beckoning flicker, lungs burning, heart pounding wildly. But just as she was about to grasp the hope, it flickered and then vanished. A haunting silence washed over her, wrapping her in dread. Now she was left alone, swallowed by the darkness, an abyss that whispered secrets she'd rather not hear. The figures loomed silent yet watchful. What awaited her? In this moment it felt as if she were already lost. Had she miscalculated her every move? What other terrors awaited her in the depths, and how could she ever escape this nightmare? There was no way back. But she had to push forward. What if the true horror wasn't the shadows, but what she might find waiting for her children in the darkness? Lisa steadied herself, a shiver running down her spine as the darkness seemed to pulse, breathing like some ancient creature lurking in the depths. She dared not linger in despair, but her resolve felt flimsy against the oppressive weight of what surrounded her. Every breath tasted stale like a warning. Mommy, the voice again, louder this time, echoing through her mind like a windstorm, shaking her from within. Hold on. Please don't lose hope. She shouted, not knowing if it was her children or herself she sought to reassure. The shadows danced around the flickering lantern, threatening to snuff it out, and with every inch the light penetrated, they hissed like boiling water across the cool steel of a stovetop. The flicker of life in the lantern was all that remained of the world she knew. Each time she spotted a fleeting glimpse of her little ones, a flash of hair, a laugh floating through the air, her heart soared, then crashed as the images faded into the void like dust in the wind. She moved forward, feeling the pull of terror crawl from her feet to her heart. The shadowy figure materialized again, looming, mocking her efforts. Running 1T save you, it crooned, its voice a jumbled mix of her children's laughter and a serpent's hiss. They're already mine. With renewed fury, she swung the lantern towards it. Get away from them. Rage and desperation surged within her as a fierce light erupted from the lantern's flame, illuminating the deep, lurking corners of despair. The figure contorted violently, its limbs twisting with rage at being interrupted. Foolish woman, it snarled, baring jagged teeth that dripped with shadowy venom. They will suffer for your missteps. Lisa's vision narrowed, and in that moment, the darkness shifted again, morphing into a kaleidoscope of cruel faces, lost souls trapped in the same nightmarish abyss. Their hollow eyes, empty of hope, pierced through her, resonating with a shared agony. She staggered, her heart pounding louder than her fierce resolve. Desperation clawed at her throat. A thought lingered in her mind. Was there a way to save not only her children but these tortured spirits too? No, she screamed, shoving the notion aside. I will not trade my children for your twisted games. Just then she heard it, laughter, soft yet sorrowful, rippling like water through the air. A ripple of warmth brushed against her skin as a familiar sound washed over her. Mommy, hurry! The light dimmed and flickered, causing Lisa's heart to race. She had to make a choice. She could run deeper into the abyss or follow that voice, stepping into the unforgiving light of the unknown. Her instincts screamed, urging her to turn back, but her children's pleas overcame every misgiving. Where are you? She cried, pushing forth, breaking through the wall of darkness. Each step felt like walking through molasses, her feet heavy with uncertainty. The laughter faded, leaving a void that was filled with renewed malevolence as shadows slithered closer. Suddenly she stumbled, falling to the ground. As she looked up, she saw it. A door. It seemed solid among the nothingness, pulsating with a rhythm that echoed her heartbeat. Was it an escape? A portal? But as she reached for it, the shadowy figure reappeared, blocking her passage. You think you can just leave? You'll have to face the truth of your own making. Lisa's breath caught. What awaited her through that door? What were the truths she had buried deep? With dread coiling around her heart, she whispered, I'll do whatever it takes. In that moment, the door groaned, revealing a sliver of light. As she stared into it, both terrified and hopeful, the shadows writhed, casting whispers of despair into her mind. What secrets lay beyond that door? And would the truth only lead her deeper into the horror that sought to keep her forever lost? There was no time to think. She had to make the choice. But what lay on the other side might change everything. Lisa's hand trembled as it hovered just above the door. The shimmering light teased her, promising clarity, but the shadows still hissed around her as if mocking her hesitation. She could feel their cold breath on her neck, a reminder that the darkness was alive, clawing for a reason to drag her back into its depths. Mommy! The voice was sharper now, urgent, a plea laced with desperation. It sent a bolt of fear straight to her core. Every instinct whispered for her to turn away, to find the safety of the familiar darkness rather than confront the unknown. But deep down, she knew she couldn't leave her children stranded. Not now. The shadow loomed larger, its visage twisting, warping with anger as it realized her resolve. You think you can just open the door and walk away? It laughed, a sound like broken glass. You are the key to this nightmare. You will face what you have denied. Lisa felt her stomach clench. What did it mean? What truths lay hidden in her heart? Desperation wrapped around her throat like a noose. The laughter faded, replaced by the haunting echoes of her children, their voices growing fainter. Mommy, help us! With a surge of adrenaline, she flung open the door, a bright blaze of light swallowing her whole. The shadows shrieked, writhing as if burned by the brilliance. Lisa stumbled forward, heart racing, stepping into the light. Reality shifted around her. She was no longer in the abyss. She stood in an empty playground, a place she recognized from happier times, her children's laughter ringing in her ears, echoing like a distant memory. The swings creaked in the gentle wind, though no one was visible. "Where are you?" she cried out, spinning to search every shadowy corner. Panic rose again, clawing at her. The warmth of the memories felt fragile amidst the growing dread. Suddenly, the laughter turned sinister. It warped, twisting into mocking gasps that echoed around her. "Did you really think you could save us?" The familiar voices merged into something darker, something that felt wrong. Lisa squinted into the sunlight, but the vivid colors began to fade. The swings slowed to a halt. No, this can't be happening. The ground trembled, cracks appearing beneath her feet. Robust laughter filling the air as if the playground itself was alive, hungry and cruel. She edged back, her breath quickening. The landscape warped, shifting like an illusion, and she felt the familiar weight of the shadows draping back over her. "Mommy, help us!" The voices now echoed in a mocking choir, surrounding her, closing in. The warmth of hope turned to ice within her chest. "No!" She spun around, searching for the source of their cries, desperation clawing at her. The door loomed behind her, now a gaping maw, threatening to swallow her whole. Suddenly, a bright flash tore through the air, illuminating the faces of her children, now gaunt and trembling. "Mommy, save us! We're trapped!" Lisa's heart exploded in her chest. "No, I won't let this happen." But as she took a step forward, the ground quaked violently beneath her, pulling her down. Shadows erupted, arms launching towards her, and beneath their grip, she could feel their icy fingers of despair wrapping tightly around her legs. "Face the truth, Lisa," the shadows whispered. "You brought this upon yourself." With a surge of defiance, she took one final step toward her children, reaching out, but the ground shattered beneath her. She fell, a scream escaping her lips as the darkness grasped her tightly, pulling her down into its suffocating embrace. Somewhere above, she heard the sound of laughter fading, as the haunting words slipped from her grasp. "Find us," and then it was quiet. What awaited her now, in this unspeakable depth? Would she find her children, or become another lost spirit echoing through the darkness? As she floated endlessly, feeling the weight of despair threaten to crush her, a flicker of light appeared in the distance. The question loomed as her heart raced: could this be hope, or the cruelest illusion yet? The void swirled around Lisa, thick and suffocating. Each breath felt like it might be her last, her lungs screaming for air as despair settled heavily upon her chest. But deep within, a flicker of resolve ignited. "I will find them," she yelled into the emptiness, forcing the words past the icy tendrils wrapping around her. As she floated deeper into the darkness, a shimmering pinprick of light came into view. It beckoned, dancing like a firefly, promising warmth and truth. Was it hope, or yet another taunt from the shadows? With every ounce of strength, Lisa kicked at the air, propelling herself toward the glimmer. The shadows slithered angrily, hissing their threats, trying to pull her back into the depths, but she pushed through, her heart pounding, a relentless drum urging her onward. "Emily! Jake!" she called, her voice echoing, desperation lacing each syllable. The light pulsed with urgency, a heartbeat syncing with her own, illuminating the cold grip of despair that surrounded her. Suddenly she felt a tug, like a thread unraveling, pulling her closer. "Please let this be it," she prayed, fighting against the doubts clawing at her. The closer she got, the more clarity emerged, a place, a moment suspended in time, the playground she had just seen. Only now it felt brighter, more vibrant. She lunged forward. The light enveloped her, and in an instant, she was standing on solid ground. The playground sparkled under the radiant sun, colors bursting and bright, laughter ringing like sweet music. "Where are you?" A chill flipped her stomach. The laughter faltered, mingling with whispers of dread. "Mommy!" At that moment, she turned, and there they were. Emily and Jake standing under the old oak tree, faces bright with innocent smiles. Relief coursed through her, only to freeze in horror as their expressions twisted into something else, a mimicry of fear and urgency. "Mommy, save us!" they cried, their voices overlapping, merged with the mocking echoes of the darkness. It felt like a trap, a cruel reflection of her own fears. The shadows rippled at the edges of her vision, closing in again, whispering vile taunts that chilled her heart. "Get away from them!" she cried, thrusting the lantern forward. The flame surged, illuminating the choking shadows that had begun to invade the brightness of this place. "Lisa," a dark voice slithered through, "you cannot protect them. You created this." Each word dripped with malice, wrapping around her heart like a vice. "Look at them, do you not see?" Ignoring the dark figure, she sprinted toward her children. The ground shook beneath her. A wave of shadow swirled dangerously close. "This isn't real," she yelled, reaching out for the children. But as her fingers grazed their arms, the vibrant colors dulled, their forms turning indistinct, as if disappearing into smoke. "Mommy, help!" They reached for her, but their hands slipped through hers like water. "No, no!" Panic filled her lungs, gripping her heart. She spun back towards the darkness creeping in. "I won't let this happen. You don't own me. You don't own them." The shadows laughed, a cacophony of twisted joy echoing in her mind. "You are the one entangled in our world. Your failures, your fears, they are what give us power." "No!" she screamed, summoning her deepest strength, the memory of their sweet laughter swirling within her like a mantra. "I am their mother. I will fight." With ferocity, Lisa raised the lantern high. The light burst like an explosion, pushing away the encroaching darkness. Shadows shrieked as she advanced, fear rippling through them. The light consumed the space, revealing her children again, their eyes wide, filled with sheer terror. "Mommy, please!" they sobbed. Lisa charged forward, every ounce of love and determination fueling her. "I'm here. I will find you." As the shadows billowed, she focused on the warmth of her children, the sweetness of their laughter, the endless love she held for them. Would it be enough? With one final surge, Lisa thrust the lantern into the abyss, and with a brilliant flash, the shadows erupted. The darkness screamed, pulling back as if scalded by the light. "No, you cannot escape." But it felt different this time. The darkness wasn't merely receding. It was obliterating. "I can and I will." And with that, the shadows shattered, light spilling everywhere. She felt a pull, a warm rush, and suddenly the weight of despair lifted. She was being thrust forward, through a veil of shadows into brightness. And then she was there, standing amid an explosion of color, the day brighter than she remembered. The swings creaked softly in the gentle breeze. Lisa spun around, her breath hitching. "Emily! Jake! Mommy!" they shouted together, arms outstretched. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes as she ran to them, embracing her children tightly, relief washing over her like an ocean wave. "I thought I lost you," she sobbed, feeling their warmth against her, each heartbeat syncing with her own. "Never," Emily replied, her voice bright with sincerity. Jake smiled, his cherubic face beaming. "We knew you'd find us, Mommy." Together they stood, a family resilient against the remnants of the darkness, shadows now mere memories fading like the last traces of a haunting dream. Lisa pulled back, locking eyes with each of them, the love burning fiercely within her. "I will always fight for you." With that promise hanging in the air, they turned towards the playground, a place of laughter and love, where darkness could no longer touch them. And somewhere, deep in the fabric of that nightmarish world, a figure watched, tethered to the shadows, biding its time. But for Lisa, today was a victory. Tomorrow would bring its own battles. But for now, the warmth of the sun surrounded them, and her family stood together. Nothing could ever shatter their light again. And as they played under the sun, the shadows receded, whispering secrets only the dark would know. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories like this. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the light.